Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment meeting for the Township of Georgian Bay for June 5th, 2026. I hereby call the meeting to order at 10 a.m. I would also like to acknowledge that we are working on the lands traditionally occupied by the Indigenous people. Indigenous people continue to care for this land and continue to shape our township. We show our respect and will continually honor the treaties that were signed as we consider our decisions and actions. I would ask any members of the committee if there are any declarations of either pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Okay, seeing none. Everyone has had the opportunity to review the minutes from our May meeting. Are there any questions and concerns about the meetings? Okay. I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Hazelton, seconded by Member Matthews. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby approves the minutes of May 8th, 2026 as circulated. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the minutes are approved. This morning, there's a public meeting scheduled for 3 consent applications and 4 minor variance applications. If you wish to be notified of the decision of these applications that are on the agenda this morning, please add your name to the contact list that's in front, or you can also register online. I'll briefly summarize the procedure to be followed for the meeting. First, the clerk will advise the committee as to when, how, and to whom notice of each of the hearings was circulated for the applications being considered. Next, each of the applications will be considered separately. Planning staff will advise of the purpose and effect of the applications and provide any information that is relevant. The clerk will summarize all correspondence on file, and from there, the application may make a brief presentation if they so choose, and the public will have an opportunity to speak to the applications being considered. After the public forum, the committee will then deliberate on the proposed applications and consider a motion to approve, defeat, or defer the applications being considered. The consent applications being considered this morning are B23-22 and B24-06 for 129 Millard Drive, B2601, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for 377 Macey Bay Road, B2607 and B2610 for Island 1740 Georgian Bay. The minor variance applications being considered this morning are A26-06 for 108 Island Drive, A26-13 for 58 Sanctuary Road, and A26-17 for 2 Island 2170 in Georgian Bay, A26-19 for 217 Kilty Bay Road. To the clerk, please.
Notice of each of the applications was sent by first-class mail to the respective owners and assessed persons within 120 meters, 500 meters, or 800 meters, and to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application. The notices were sent at least 20 days prior to this morning's meeting. Included in each notice was an explanation of the purpose and effect of the application and a key map showing the location of the property. Other relevant information may have also been provided. These circulations were provided in accordance with provisions of the Planning Act 1990.
Thank you. Our first consent application this morning is B23-22 and B24-06 for 129 Millard Drive. To the planner, please.
Try a microphone. Through the chair. The subject lands have a lot area of approximately 1.3 hectares and a lot frontage of 124 meters on Gloucester Pool within the Trent Severn Waterway. The consent applications were heard at the December 5th, 2025 hearing. The Committee of Adjustment deferred the applications, listing the following reasons. The outstanding issues relating to the existing buildings and structures on the portion of the property to be retained. The undersized septic system on the retained parcel must be addressed. The required zoning bylaw amendment may result in a change in the proposed lot configuration for the new residential parcel. And application is premature until such time as the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment have been enacted. Items 1 and 2 were addressed in the official plan amendment to permit 2 sleeping cabins in the required shoreline or front yard setback, as well as the zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the lands, were adopted by Planning Council earlier this week on June 2nd. The proposal before the committee is the creation of a new 5,200 square meter shoreline residential lot and an easement across the retained parcel to provide ingress and egress to the new lot. The proposed lot frontage of the new lot will be 53 meters, which is less than the required minimum lot frontage in the SR1 zone. However, the zoning bylaw amendment includes a reduced lot frontage for the new lot. The zoning bylaw amendment also includes a shoreline structure envelope on the newly created lot, as well as a designated parking area location. The retained parcel will include all existing buildings and structures and will be comprised of 10,390 square meters. Concerns were raised at the public meeting of Planning Council on December 2nd and the Committee of Adjustment hearing on December 5th. The owner is proposing the following to address these concerns. Converting the sleeping cabin located adjacent to the north cottage to a dryland boathouse. Moving the sauna to a location that is 15 meters from the controlled water mark and 5 meters from the side lot line. Relocating the wood shed to a location that is 15 meters from the controlled water mark and 5 meters from the side lot line. And to address these septic system concerns, the owner will remove the historic illegal sleeping cabin that is closest to the northern dwelling and convert this building to a dryland boathouse. Will remove one of the 3 bedrooms, will remove one of the 3 bedrooms from the main dwelling on the lot. Additionally, the owners of the property to the south expressed concerns with the potential parking area on the proposed severed lot, requesting it be located where it would not be visible from the water or from their property. The owner is agreeable to the establishment of a parking area on the severed lot that is located behind the dwelling. A dock envelope has been established through the zoning bylaw amendment as well to address concerns of a dock in close proximity to the neighboring boathouse. The official plan amendment adopted by Council established a site-specific policy to permit 1 existing and 1 proposed sleeping cabin within the 20-meter front yard setback. To reiterate, the existing southerly dwelling is proposed to be converted to a sleeping cabin. The purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment was to create 3 site-specific amendments on both the severed and retained lots. The amendment recognizes 2 sleeping cabins, including the maximum floor area and front yard setback of the cabins on the retained parcel. It permitted the minimum lot frontage of 53 meters, established a minimum setback from the southern interior lot line of 15 meters for shoreline structures and 24 meters for principal and land-based accessory buildings, as well as confirmed a minimum front lot line setback of 20 meters excluding shoreline structures, and also removed any setback requirements from an EP zone. The amendment limits a parking area and driveway to the rear yard, setback a minimum of 24 meters from the south side lot line. There is also an area of land on the severed parcel that was rezoned to an environmental protection wetland exception zone as a result of the scoped environmental impact assessment. Overall, the proposed development and consent applications conform with the Township of Georgian Bay official plan as they support permitted waterfront residential use,
maintain the character and aesthetic of the shoreline, and address natural heritage considerations through the scope DIS and proposed environmental protection zoning. With the severed lot frontage below the minimum requirement, this deviation is justified by site-specific features, and the applications are otherwise supported by appropriate servicing, access, and compatibility with surrounding development. Planning staff are of the opinion the applications represent good planning, having conducted a detailed analysis of applicable planning legislation, and are recommending approval of the consent application subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, has there been any correspondence on this application?
One letter from the District of Muskoka stating they have no objection to the application. One letter was received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating that the septic system appears undersized and will require upgrading and building permits will be required. And one letter was received from Parks Canada stating they have no issue with the proposed application.
Thank you. Is the applicant present, and would their agent please come forward to the microphone if they're here?
Get my
Please
exercise.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee and members of the public and staff. My name is Jamie Robinson, partner and planner with MHBC Planning. I'll be brief. You've seen this application before. Key message is there's sort of three things. First is that we agree with the recommendations of the staff report that are before you today. Secondly is that council at the planning council meeting, I believe it was Tuesday of this week, passed the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment, which would implement this application. So then as a result, it's come forward to this meeting, the consent application for consideration. And then finally, we've taken into consideration the comments from the neighbors and adjusted the docking envelope to require a dock to be oriented away from the boathouse and the neighboring property. Because the neighboring properties to the south are boat access, we've identified a location on the subject lands for parking of cars that's out of sight and behind the dwelling from those neighboring properties, so they won't see cars in an area where cars haven't historically been seen. And then the one item that I know was, and we've proposed to remove, modify, and move various structures on the property to become more in compliance with the bylaw, which is, I think, something this committee had requested. And then finally, there was some question about the reduced lot frontage on the severed lot. So we did do some more research and provided some more information related to that. And there's some photos in the agenda package if you have questions about that really illustrate the prominence and the proximity that a 60-meter lot frontage would be versus what we've proposed. And we think it's more in the interest of the future landowners of the proposed lot and both the current lot owners to have a slightly undersized lot in one instance and a slightly oversized lot in another instance, as opposed to two that comply with the bylaw. And council has agreed through their passing of the zoning bylaw amendment to that item. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if there's any questions, I can do my best to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And Member Jarvis.
Thank you, Chair Hill, and through you, a couple of questions actually for our planning staff. I happen to agree with everything that's been done, and I think I can appreciate the changes that are made. So thank you, Jamie. When we were at planning council the other day, I brought up the fact that the zoning is mislabeled on page 7 of your report. If we go to that, if you wouldn't mind pulling it up, the zoning's incorrect. Deb said she would correct it. Yeah, it's just mislabeled. That's all it is. I know there's no problem with it, but I think we should have it labeled properly. I think it just needs to be corrected. I don't think there's any explanation needed. Okay. I just think you've got a SR zone that should be P and EP that should be SR.
I have talked to Ms. McCain after the meeting.
Okay.
The bylaw schedule will reflect that.
That'd be great. She did say she'd correct it, but I didn't see it here, so that's why I was questioning it. One other question, if that's all right. Actually, I might stretch into two, but
Please proceed.
Page 4 of your report gives a list of all the proposals versus what is required for approval. And on the severed lot, there's a lot of not available information. I presume that's information that would be filled in when an applicant decides they're finally going to put something on that lot. But when we look at that lot in the diagram, it looks like things are pretty clearly defined. Why aren't they defined in the chart on it's page 4 of your report that we saw here?
Through the chair, I just want to clarify that is Deb's report.
I know, but you're presenting. If we could just pull it up, we can bring it to Deb's attention, or maybe Jamie can explain it to me. It may be very, very simple. I just am curious because it showed that a lot of information says NA, which to me means
I can
it's coming down the road or what?
Yeah, through Mr. Chair to Member Jarvis. So I think what you're referring to is a zoning compliance table that was included. So the zoning compliance table for the retained lands can identify what the specific setbacks are currently or proposed for the side yards, rear yards, front yards, etc. Lot coverage, but for the severed lot, since there's no actual building proposed on the site, we can't specifically indicate what those setbacks are and what those lot coverage requirements are. However, they are required when they get constructed to comply with the zoning bylaw, or they'd have to come back to the committee for relief. So what we identified on the sketches was a building envelope in yellow, so you can see the defined building envelope. So there'll be a building envelope in there. The closest it could be to the water is 20 meters, but it could end up being 25 or 30. So those numbers would effectively get filled in when a building permit application's made for that site.
Thank you. That answers my question. I mean, I was just concerned that that information was going to be different than what our zoning bylaw requires, but they'd have to come back to us anyway if they wanted that. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Member Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a clarification on the severed lot. There's a yellow package down by the water. Is that an existing building or is that proposed building envelope or?
Through the chair, that's the shoreline structure potential area.
Okay. There's nothing there right now.
There's nothing there. No, it's just an envelope for potential dock
Right.
locations. Yeah.
Thank you. Just need that clarity. Thank you.
Any further questions? Member Rivet.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the planner. Page 31 of 39 mentions the retained lot currently has a 3-bedroom cottage plus a sleeping cabin. And the fix to that is to change the sleeping cabin into a boathouse and take out one of the bedrooms from the cottage. So, and that means there's no increase to the number of bedrooms, and that satisfies the question of the size of the septic bed. But I wonder, does it still satisfy the CBO that the septic is undersized and will require an upgrade?
Through the chair, my understanding is that the septic concerns were addressed by the conversion of the bunkie to the boathouse, the removal of a bedroom, and that the comments presented or mentioned at the start of this public hearing were those same comments that were provided at the December 5th Committee of Adjustment public hearing on this application.
So can we have confirmation from the CBO that removing a framing of a bedroom in the cottage and removing the sleeping cabin will satisfy them, that the septic is not undersized? And my only question is, if it is undersized, is there capacity to size it to what it should be?
I can help you with that. Through Mr. Chairman to committee member Ray. So there's a condition outlined in the conditions of provisional consent related to the building permit items. So how this would work is that what's proposed is there's a conversion of a sleeping cabin to a storage shed. There's removal of a bedroom from the dwelling. Once those are completed, then the chief building official or a building staff member would go do an inspection on the property to make sure those items had been done. And then they could sign off that the condition of consent has been satisfied, that those items have been completed. And then the consent certificate would be issued to create the lot. So effectively, the check and the balance for the municipality is the new lot doesn't actually get created until those changes to the property have been done, which would then ensure that the septic system is sized to accommodate the development that exists on the retained lot. So that's the check and the balance in place, is there has to be a sign off from the CBO on those items before the new lot can get created.
Well, so can planning confirm that the CBO has seen these proposed changes? So I just wanted, to me, it seems like it's still, I mean, this is a new application. I would have thought they would have looked at it. I didn't know there was a difference between a 2-bedroom dwelling and a 3-bedroom dwelling as far as the minimum size of the septic bed either. So I'd just like to see that confirmation, or confirmation that if it turns out that it's not to size, is there a capacity to size it so that there's no other surprises that might come forward? Which seems to be an unanswered question to me. Thank you.
We have a comment from member or Director Woodlip.
Thank you. Through the chair, I believe the building department did review, and we do have comments from the building department. And they have no concerns.
Oh, the comment I read was septic is undersized. That's the comment.
Correct, but that's addressed through the septic review. Right, so it's simply, it's essentially that comment is advising the applicant that they need to address it. If there was, I guess, what I'm saying, if there was a concern from the building department of the ability for the lot to accommodate the upsized septic system, that would have been flagged at this point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments by committee members? Okay, we have two resolutions on this application. One for B23-22 and a second one for B24-06. So I will read each of those resolutions separately. We'll vote on them and move forward from there. So I beg your pardon, Mr. Jarvis? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Please relax and we'll get in. It is moved by member Rivet, seconded by member Jarvis, in regard to consent file B23-22. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby grants provisional approval to consent application B23-22 for the creation of one new lot having a minimum frontage of 53 meters and a minimum lot area of 0.52 hectares, and subject to the following conditions. One, that the clerk of the township provide written confirmation that an official plan amendment number 29 is in force and effect, recognizing 2 sleeping cabins within the front yard on the retained parcel. 2, that the clerk of the township provide written confirmation that a zoning bylaw amendment is in force in effect to recognize 2 sleeping cabins, including the minimum floor area and front yard setback of the cabins on the retained parcel, and the minimum lot frontage reduction in the minimum front yard setback, parking area location, interior side yard setbacks, and shoreline structure area on the newly created lot. And 3, that the certificate of official for consent file B24-06 for the creation of an easement to provide ingress and egress to the new lot has been issued and finalized. And 4, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the properties being considered. And 5, that the owner pay 5% in lieu of parkland dedication for the severed land in accordance with section 51 subsection 1(3) of the Planning Act for the Township of Georgian Bay. The township shall retain an appraiser at the applicant's expense, or the applicant may retain an appraiser from a certified designation to provide the appraisal based on the land value of the severed land as of the day before the day of approval of the provisional consent decision. And 6, that a draft reference plan be completed by an Ontario land surveyor and a digital copy filed with the Secretary Treasurer of Committee of Adjustment. 7, that a copy of the deposited reference plan be provided to the Secretary Treasurer. 8, that a draft transfer be prepared by solicitor and submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in preparation for the creation of a certificate of official describing the parcels created by consent. And 9, that all fees and disbursements, legal, engineering, planning, if any, incurred by the township with respect to this application be paid for by the respective owners. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our second consent application is application B24-06, and it is moved by member Predko, seconded by member Schmidt. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby grants provisional approval to the consent application B24-06 for the creation of a 6-meter wide easement across the retained parcel subject to consent file B23-22 to provide ingress and egress to the newly created lot and subject to the following conditions. 1, that the clerk of the township provide written confirmation that an official plan amendment number 29 is in force and effect, recognizing 2 sleeping cabins within the front yard on the retained parcel. 2, that the clerk of the township provide written confirmation that a zoning bylaw amendment is in force and effect to recognize 2 sleeping cabins, including the maximum floor area and the front yard setback of the cabins on the retained parcel, and the minimum lot frontage, reduction in the minimum front yard setback, parking area location, interior side yard setbacks, and shoreline structure on the newly created lot. And 3, that a draft reference plan be completed by Ontario Land Surveyor, digital copy filed with Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. 4, that a copy of the deposited reference plan be provided to the Secretary Treasurer. 5, that a draft transfer be prepared by solicitor and submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in preparation for the creation of a certificate of official describing the parcels created by the consent. And 6, that all fees and disbursements, legal, engineering, and planning, if any, incurred by the township with respect to the application be paid by the prospective owners. And pursuant to section 53, subsection 42 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 2 years of the giving of notice of decision. Section 53, subsection 43 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by the consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the consent is approved. Thank you. Our next consent application is B2601 through 06 for 377B Macey Bay Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The subject lands have a lot area of 11.86 acres with a frontage of 380 meters onto Georgian Bay. The subject lands can be accessed from Macey Bay Road via a registered right-of-way over the lands municipally known as 375 Macey Bay Road. The property currently contains 3 legal non-complying dwellings, 1 accessory storage building, and 2 privies. Otherwise, the property is for the majority in its natural state, containing areas of dense mature tree cover, areas of exposed granite rock, and low-lying vegetation throughout. The purpose of the consent applications is to create 3 new residential parcels, 1 retained residential parcel, and 3 easements to provide access to the newly created parcels from Macey Bay Road. The proposed easements build upon the existing driveway connection, expanding from Macey Bay Road. The driveway will be appropriately widened and extended in accordance with the recommendations of supporting technical studies and reports. The proposed parcels are sufficient in size and configuration to comply with the minimum lot area and minimum lot frontage standards of the Shoreline Residential Type 1 zone. The zoning bylaw requires that all newly created parcels meet the standards and that no consent or boundary adjustment result in parcels that are deficient in area or frontage. Please note that the applicant has submitted an environmental impact study, a functional servicing report, a hydrogeological assessment, and a stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment, all in support of the proposed lot configurations. These corresponding documents confirm that the future development of each lot, contemplating single residential uses and adequately sized private septic systems, is feasible and in conformity with applicable regulations. The environmental impact statement, completed by Ecosystem Research and Management, contemplated the entirety of the development proposal, including the zoning bylaw amendment, the subject consent and easement applications, the extension of the existing driveway, and future development of the newly created parcels of land. The peer-reviewed EIS found that the most potential impact from the future development will be concentrated in the open rock areas. No significant negative impact on the provincially significant wetland is anticipated, as all development will be outside of the 30-meter setback from the wetland. To address this constraint, the EIS establishes development standards requiring that building envelopes, septic systems, and site alteration be appropriately set back from all shorelines, and that no development occur within or directly adjacent to these sensitive aquatic areas. Please note that a condition of approval for the subject consent applications will require the owner to enter into a consent agreement with the township that will in turn require the respective future owner of each lot to enter into a site plan agreement with the township. These site plan agreements will ensure that EIX recommendations are fulfilled prior to, at the time of, and thereafter any site alteration or development. As defined in the provincial planning statement, the subject property is located on rural lands. Section 2.6 of the PPS identifies residential development, including lot creation, where site conditions are suitable for the provision of appropriate sewage and water services as permitted uses on rural lands. As the proposed lots meet all applicable zoning standards for size and frontage for the SR1 zone, and the functional servicing report prepared by Tatham Engineering confirms that the development will meet the established criteria with respect to sanitary treatment, staff opine that the proposed applications are in conformity with the provincial planning statement. The subject lands are designated waterfront area under both the district and township official plans. Resource-based recreational uses, including low-density, single-unit recreational dwellings and limited year-round low-density, single-unit residential development are permitted uses in the waterfront area. The proposal facilitates resource-based recreational use through the establishment of individual waterfront lots intended for single-unit residential or recreational dwellings. Development would be limited to one dwelling per lot, arranged in a linear fashion along the shoreline, thereby preserving the traditional waterfront development pattern and preventing over-intensification. Furthermore, the consent layout allows for the development to be sited and designed in a manner that minimizes impacts on ecological features and shoreline functions, while protecting scenic views and the natural appearance of the waterfront. The committee can either approve or deny the consents and easements being requested. The committee may also defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis of the proposal and all related background studies and reports, and are recommending approval of all proposed consents and easements subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, has there been correspondence on this application?
One letter was received from the District of Muskoka stating they have no objection to the applications, provided development controls implement the recommendations of the required environmental, archaeological, servicing, and hydrological studies. One letter was received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating that a consent condition will require each property with an existing dwelling to have a sewage system that complies with the Ontario Building Code. And one letter was received from Hydro One stating they have no comment or concerns with the proposed applications.
Thank you. Is the applicant present or their agent, and do they wish to address the committee with any comments? Please turn on the microphone in front of you and identify yourself for the record, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Miriam Bassey. I'm the planner on this file for Mr. Rennie Bidinot, the owner of the property. And I just wanted to let you know also that our engineering consultant, David Reed, and our ecological consultant, Chris Zolodeski, they are both online via Zoom.
Okay. Could I ask you to put the microphone a little closer so we can hear you better? Maybe speak a little louder.
Okay. Is it on? Yeah, okay. I do have a presentation that I was told would be shared. Great. So it's a short presentation, but it does cover a few things that the town, Andrew didn't put on the screen. So if I could move to the second slide, just the location of the property. And I wanted to speak to the third slide is to do with the access. So as Andrew mentioned, there is a right-of-way registered on title. This right-of-way was registered in 1974, and it does bring vehicular or pedestrian traffic down from Macey Bay Road to the subject property. And there is a gravel causeway that connects the 1974 right-of-way to the existing driveway on the property. No, there. And these were shown on two separate surveys. The right-of-way survey was produced in August of 73, and the most current one is in December of 23, and that was a boundary survey that we were using for our process through the planning applications. Next slide, please.
Can you make that full screen?
These three slides represent the three consent applications in sequence from the first severed to the last severed, and it also shows the final retained parcel. The next slide, please. These three sequential consents represent the easements required to gain access from the right-of-way to the proposed parcels and the retained parcels. So there are three separate easements across the properties, and the last one ending at the retained parcel 4, and that will provide vehicle and pedestrian access to the newly created lots. Next slide, please. This slide represents the building envelope and septic envelopes. So for the building envelopes, they have to be 30 meters from the wetland, which is the line in green, and 20 meters from the high water mark, which is the line in red. The building envelopes are portrayed on the plan with the hatching, and it follows the setbacks required from the wetlands and also from the high water mark. The septic bed locations, they have to be 30 meters from the high water mark, and also 30 meters from the high water mark, and above the 177 high water mark plus 1 meter, so 178.4. I think I misspoke here for a minute. 30 meters from the high water. Sorry, I'm getting confused with this. 30 meters from the high water mark and 178.4 meters above. And the septic areas are within the building envelopes, but they are shaded so you can recognize the difference there. So everything is to the provisions of your zoning bylaw. The last slide are just the site statistics. So all the lots proposed they meet the minimum lot area and lot frontage of your official plans, which is the township's official plan and District of Muskoka official plan, and also the SR1 Shoreline Residential 1 zoning bylaw. Zone. It's been a long week. And that's the conclusion of my presentation. As I mentioned, we do have our environmental consultant and our engineering consultant on hand via Zoom if you have
Okay.
any questions relating to
Thank you
those.
for that. Mr. Bidinot, is there anything you wish to add to the agent's comments?
So,
Is there anything you wish to add? Okay, all right.
I've been up here for 70 years to the property right beside it. And,
You want you to turn on your microphone.
oh,
And look,
yeah, no, there's nothing I need to add.
Okay,
She's done a great job. Thank you.
thank you. Do they want to speak? Okay, I understand that the consultants that are online wish to add some comments. Please go ahead. And who do we have online?
I'm David Reedy with Tatham Engineering. I have nothing to add, just here to answer any questions that might come up.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to comment on the application? Okay, seeing none, I will ask if there are any members of the public, either present or online, that wish to address the committee on the application. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And Mr. Jarvis.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, just a question to planning. There are currently, I think, 3 cottages on the property as it stands. Are we recognizing those within this consent as non-conforming, or are they being required to be taken down sooner rather than later?
Through the chair, we are recognizing them as legal non-conforming buildings. So if there were to be any new development on the lot, they would be subject to the site conditions having to be set back as per the corresponding reports. But under section 411E, they could be reconstructed in place.
So in other words, for the time being, they are still usable, and we just recognize them as non-conforming, and that's that, correct?
Through the chair, I'm not sure of the condition of all 3 dwellings. Maybe the owner can provide further information on that, but as is, yes, the lot configurations, it would be out of the 4 lots, I believe 3 of them would have a dwelling on them as it stands.
Okay, wonder. The last question I had, maybe the causeway, which really isn't part of this application at all, I know. But my question is, we had a high water event back in 2020. Was the causeway impacted by the high water event?
No, it wasn't.
Sorry, my microphone wasn't on. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments by the committee? Let's recognize Member Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Mr. Jarvis answered one of my questions, because in the report, it calls itself an island. And so it's actually separated from the mainland and just joined by the causeway that was just mentioned by Mr. Jarvis?
Through the chair, that's correct. The causeway connects it to the mainland, although with the water level the way it is now, if you performed a site visit, it doesn't appear as an island whatsoever. It appears all connected.
Yeah. Okay. The other comment was the applicant must have patience of Job to spend 3+ years getting to this stage. So good on you for that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, just one additional question. Is there an additional lot between that causeway and where the subject property begins?
Through the chair, there is 375 Macey Bay, in which the existing right-of-way accesses the subject lands over. There is some areas of land there that separate 375 from 377B Macey Bay, and that is considered that low water area or high water area, that there's no actual legal lands in that area.
And does that require an easement to cross that property in order to get to the subject lots?
No, it does not. It would just be over the current private owned lot, 375 Macey Bay, which an easement already exists.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Schmidt, seconded by Member Hazelton. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby grants provisional approval to the consent application B 2601 through 6, or pardon me, 01, 02, and 03 in this case, and for the creation of 3 new shoreline residential lots and 1 retained lot, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the clerk of the township provide written confirmation that zoning bylaw amendment Z 2602 is in force and effect, recognizing the zoning change. 2, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. 3, that this decision applies only to the lots as indicated in Schedule A attached to and forming part of this decision. The lots shall substantially conform with Schedule A. And 4, that the owner pay 5% in lieu of parkland dedication to this for the severed lands in accordance with Section 51 of the Planning Act and Township of Georgian Bay bylaw number 88-74. The township shall retain an appraiser at the owner's expense to prepare appraisal of the, or the owner may retain an appraiser of their choosing, subject to the required qualifications to undertake that required appraisal. And 5, that a draft reference plan be completed by an Ontario land surveyor and a digital copy filed with the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. And 6, that a copy of the deposited reference plan be provided to the Secretary Treasurer. 7, that a draft transfer be prepared by a solicitor and submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in preparation for the creation of a certificate of official describing the parcels created by consent. And 8, that the owner's solicitor submits all deeds for certification for files B21, B26-01, 02, and 03 to the township at the same time, and that the township applies certification to all deeds consecutively. And 9, that all fees and disbursements, legal, engineering, or planning, if any, incurred by the township with respect to the applications be paid by the respective owners. And 10, that the owner shall at their cost enter into a consent agreement with the township that will be registered on title and binding upon successors in title to require that the respective owner of each lot at their cost shall enter into a site plan control agreement with the township regarding registered on subject lands for the purpose of ensuring that the EIS recommendations prepared by Ecosystem Research and Management are fulfilled prior to, at the time of, and thereafter any site alteration or development. And be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby grants provisional approval to consent applications B2604, B2605, and B2606 for the creation of 3 easements to provide ingress and egress to the newly created lots via Macey Bay Road, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. And 2, that this decision applies only to the easements as indicated in Schedule A attached to and forming part of this decision. The lot shall substantially conform to Schedule A. 3, that a draft reference plan be completed by Ontario land surveyor and a digital copy filed with Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. 4, that a copy of the deposited reference plan be provided to the Secretary Treasurer. And 5, that a draft transfer be prepared by a solicitor and submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in preparation for the creation of a certificate of official describing the legal description of the dominant and servient lands subject to creation of easements. And note, pursuant to Section 53, subsection 42 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 2 years of giving notice of decision. And Section 53, subsection 43 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by the consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the applications are approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next consent application is B26-07 and B26-10 for Island 1740 Georgian Bay. To the plan, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. The subject lands consist of 3 lots having a total area of approximately 3.47 hectares. The northern lot remains vacant with the exception of a shed that encroaches onto the property and otherwise retains its natural forested condition. The remaining 2 lots are developed each containing a detached dwelling, associated accessory structures, and a dock. The purpose and effect of the applications is to obtain a cancellation certificate for the previously granted consent related to the island, followed by a subsequent or concurrent consent to sever. This approach would result in the island comprising 2 lots instead of 3. To clarify, the island was originally divided into 3 parcels through a 1985 consent. In 2019, a new consent application was approved to reconfigure the island into 2 parcels, but the approval lapsed. The district's waterfront area policies aim to protect ecological features, natural aesthetics, and shoreline character while supporting appropriate recreational and compatible residential development. The proposed consent applications conform by reducing development potential, eliminating a vacant lot, and creating 2 larger parcels that align with existing patterns and preserve the island's natural appearance. The reconfiguration maintains low-density single-unit shoreline development while improving lot size and function, ensuring compatibility with environmental and planning considerations. The Cognizine waterfront community policies prioritize preserving the area's unique water access character, natural environment, scenic vistas, and cultural heritage, with limited permitted uses focused on low-density, water-oriented recreation and residential development. The proposed consent to reduce 3 lots to 2 aligns with these principles by limiting development potential, protecting ecological features, and maintaining the island's visual and environmental integrity. The consent applications eliminate the existing parcel that does not meet the minimum lot area and frontage requirements. The resulting 2 lots will each exceed the minimum lot area of 1 hectare and minimum frontage of 180 meters, thereby improving overall conformity with the official plan. The subject lands are currently zoned shoreline residential type 5 exception 12. The site-specific exception establishes the minimum lot area and lot frontage as existing and states regulations for permitted uses are the regulations that apply to the Cognizine residential zone. The consent applications will result in increased lot areas and frontages compared to the existing configuration. The retained lands will have an area of approximately 13,953 square meters and a frontage of 196.8 meters, while the severed lands will have an area of approximately 20,738 square meters and a frontage of 236.2 meters. Planning staff have conducted a detailed analysis of the proposal based on applicable planning legislation and are recommending approval subject to standard conditions of consent. The committee has the option to approve, deny with reason, or defer the application for additional information. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, has there been correspondence in this application?
1 letter was received from the District of Muskoka stating they have no objection to the application. 1 letter was received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating that she has no concern with the application, and 2 letters of support were received from David W. Drinkwater and Cognizine Cottage Association.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or their agent present, and if so, do they wish to address the committee on this application?
Through the chair, yes, I do have a brief presentation that I'm hoping the clerk received.
Could you please identify yourself?
Yeah, so my name is James Hunter of Morgan Plain Development.
I'm
sorry, James Hunter.
Maybe speak a little slower. I missed your name altogether.
Yeah, James Hunter of Morgan Planning and Development. So we're the planners and project managers for the McCain family.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, through the chair. What email did you send it to?
Planning, and then I also sent it directly to you.
Okay, S. Levesque, I haven't received anything. Did you send it this morning?
It was submitted last week. I tried to submit again this morning. Now the Wi-Fi is a little bit slow in here, so I'm not sure if I had difficulties.
And so
Yeah, I can try. Sorry.
I got it.
Okay, I guess we have received that email, so would you please proceed with any comments that you may have, Mr. Hunter?
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize, Chair and Committee. I didn't expect this to happen. I can do a very brief overview of the application just because staff provided it.
Well, we already have an overview unless there's something you want to add to what's been said already.
No, through the chair, I don't think I need to add anything more. Like I said, I had a presentation. The McCain family, in a long story short, are just working through some family plans with generations to come. The original approval that was granted on this island was for 3 lots through a severance application. Through the application itself and the cancellation, we are canceling that approval, creating 2 ultimate lots that meet the policies of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, ultimately meeting the needs of the family better and the policies of all planning documents. So again, we're usually asking for more lots, not less, but in this case, this is meeting the family needs. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions directed my way.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any member of the public present that wishes to address the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments, beginning with Member Jarvis.
Thank you, through the chair. It's great to see a lot that was supposed to be, or 3 lots being reduced to 2. I hope McCain keeps this in mind for any other future development. I think it's wonderful to see this. And that was going to be just a comment. I have no questions.
Thank you very much. Member Matthews, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would echo Mr. Jarvis's comment. It's great to see people, if they can have a lot line, make them bigger than smaller. So it's very much appreciated. The new building that was on lot 2, I guess, I assume it met all the proper setbacks and at the time of the building codes and zoning bylaws.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Matthews. So the original approval actually had closer lot lines to the dwellings. The new application has pushed us further back, meeting zoning, so actually increasing separation to the lot line.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Matthews, seconded by Member Jarvis. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Georgian Bay approves consent for certificate of cancellation requested by application B2607. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Georgian Bay hereby grants provisional approval for consent application B26-10 for the creation of 1 new lot having a minimum frontage of 236 meters and a minimum lot area of 20,738 square meters and subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant provide confirmation that the cancellation certificate has been registered. And 2, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from the Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property subject to this decision. And 3, that a draft reference plan be completed by Ontario Land Surveyor and a digital copy filed with the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. And 4, that a copy of the deposited reference plan be provided to the Secretary Treasurer. 5, that a draft transfer be prepared by solicitor and submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in preparation for the creation of a certificate of official describing the parcels created by consent. And 6, that all fees and disbursements, legal, engineering, or planning, if any, incurred by the township with respect to the applications be paid for by the respective owners. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our first minor variance application for today is A26-06 for 108 Island Drive. To the planner, please.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and everyone in attendance here in the chambers and online. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I will share my screen. As already stated by the chairman, we're here today regarding application number 82606 regarding 108 Island Drive. The owner is Curtis Knight. There is no agent on this application, and my report is 2026-105. And of course, I am Jeff Kratke. The location of the lands are on the Trent Severn Waterway and Gloucester Pool on a peninsula at the end of Island Drive. The purpose of the application is to vary the minimum shoreline setback for leaching bed septic systems in now section 4.27 of the zoning bylaw from 30 meters to 19 meters with the effect of allowing a new septic system. The proposed site sketch plan identifies the proposed septic bed in a blue cross-hatching. You will also see there in a black or standard color dotted line the 20-meter or 4-meter setback for a building in our zoning bylaw. However, there is no 30-meter setback for a septic system on these lands. Additionally, you will see on the drawing a blue dotted line, which is the Ontario Building Code requirement. And also of importance is a overhead electrical wire that serves the dwelling on the property. So there is a hydro easement. And typically the committee will be used to the building official being very concerned about that septic being located within that setback from the hydro line. But of course, in this case, there simply are very few places that this septic system may go. And again, because the line simply serves the existing dwelling, we've had discussions and there's no concern with this location. The committee may also remember these lands from last year, at which point in time there was a minor variance for a new detached garage with a second-story sleeping cabin to replace the existing sleeping cabin on the lands. The driveway that exists there is legal non-conforming and legal non-complying. And therefore, as well, it would require a further variance for the setback from the water's edge if it were to vary. And so it was very important, and this is why there was not a lot of space between the power lines for the septic system to be located. And so that's why it is being proposed where it's being proposed. Additionally, there are a number of natural constraints in the area. There is PSWs, including one right along the shoreline and opposite, and there are type 1 fish habitats in a number of locations. The proposed septic is located on what's called adjacent lands to those natural constraints. However, there was a scoped environmental impact study completed and registered on title of the lands through the minor variance agreement for the previous new detached garage and overhead sleeping cabin. And from my site visits and review of the available LiDAR information from the district, it appears that any over-the-surface water flows would be intercepted by the driveway that becomes Island Drive and not head approximately westward towards the nearby adjacent PSW. Additionally, the flow of the Trent Severn Waterway would carry any over-the-land flow away from the PSW on the opposite side of that part of the Trent Severn Waterway. And so I did not require any update to the scoped environmental impact study registered on these lands. Additionally, the MNRF has prepared new wildfire hazard mapping that did not exist the last time the committee reviewed this site. And it seems to take great exception to juniper bushes. On a number of occasions, wherever I've attended one of these new extreme hazard risks, which are much smaller dimensions, it seems to be focused on juniper bushes. The proposed septic bed does have some non-native juniper bushes in approximately the center of the blue hatched area. There are native juniper bushes that are identified by the environmental impact study as being ecologically important to the approximate north and to the approximate east of the power lines, and as well to the approximate west of the proposed garage and sleeping cabin. And of course, while we are always trying to achieve the maximum policy adherence, sometimes we have to balance policies. And in this case, in my opinion, there was no need for a wildfire assessment because, as I say, the non-native juniper bushes will be removed by the new septic bed, and the impact is nominal, if any, on the native juniper bushes, which are ecologically important and should remain. The subject lands are in the waterfront in both the MOP and in our official plan, and they are located in the SR1 zone in our zoning bylaw. The lands surrounding it, of course, are mostly forested, except where there is water or wetland. In my opinion, as a registered professional planner, this application does pass the 4 tests required under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. The committee, though, does have options, and certainly you can approve as recommended with the recommended conditions. You can approve with varied conditions as stipulated in your resolution. You can refuse for reasons stated by the committee in its resolution. You could refer it back to staff with reasons, or you could defer it. However, in conclusion, in my opinion, it is subject to the conditions as proposed, having regard to the provincial interests as discussed in my report, consistent with the PPS as discussed in detail in my report, and it passes all 4 tests under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. Therefore, I have recommended its approval in one resolution, together with its conditions in a second resolution that I'm sure the chair will be reading when you vote on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Has there been correspondence?
One letter was received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating building permits will be required and OLS confirmation of setbacks may be required by the building department. And one letter was received from Parks Canada, stating they have no issues with the proposed application.
Thank you. Is the applicant present and do they wish to address the committee on this application, or are they online? Okay, they're not present, or sorry, somebody is online? Okay. Mr. Knight, if you can hear us, please identify yourself for the record, and if you have anything to add, please let us know.
Hi there, it's Erin Knight. I'm Kurt's wife and owner of the property as well. I don't have anything to add. If you need anything from me, I can speak on it, but I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any member of the public present or online that wishes to address this application? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And you have your hand up, Mr. Pedgo. Please go ahead.
I was just trying to jump in before member.
Well done. Well done.
Just questioning on the I guess the previous application for the garage with a sleeping cabin and the removal of the sleeping cabin on the property and the original septic tank. And just wanted to confirm that when we did the original, we were assuming that the demolish of the bunkie would negate, wouldn't, and adding the sleeping cabin above the garage was sort of a net neutral in terms of bedrooms, but the review of the septic currently has identified that it's not adequate for the property. Is that kind of where we got to today?
To my knowledge, no. To my knowledge, this is a proposal by the applicant in advance of doing their building permit application.
So okay. And then, okay. Obviously the current septic system is in a worse location than the proposed one. So this is a net improvement. And my question through you, Chair, to the our CBO is as we're going through this, do we need any other conditions about additional measures on the septic for nitrogen mitigation or anything else? Thank you.
So through the chair to Councillor or Member Predco, that is part and parcel of any variance that comes forward before the committee, is that it does need phosphorus management.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Member Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just sort of a comment. Yeah, hopefully something that we could do in the future. It was a long drive back in there to do a site visit. And just because of the lay of the land there, it was extremely difficult to try to place exactly where this was going to go. There was no markings. There was nothing that would have helped to guide an inspection on that property. And I'm guessing where it's going to go is rock. There's consistent rock cropping just behind there. Is it that far back? Or again, it was difficult to put our finger on where exactly it was going to go. And I do believe this is a net improvement, but it was a long drive to get no information.
So this would be on the driveway side of the overhead power line, and the rock is essentially visible with, again, those native junipers to the north of that overhead power line. This is an area I would characterize it as mixture of native and non-native vegetation, all of which appears to be, rather young. It seems that it's soil, whether it's native soil or whether it's imported soil, I cannot say. But there is essentially a raised area of soils already existing in approximately the location where this septic system would go.
Member Jarvis, please go ahead.
I think that Member Schmidt should probably make another drive in there and have another look.
Okay. Truck's already dirty from it now.
No, my question to planning is, I'd appreciate the report. And quite often, I mean, when we've had similar type requests, we usually get a survey that gives us elevations, so that we have a better idea of what the impact of this would be on runoff, et cetera. So my question to you is, where it's being proposed, is it a low-lying area within the bedrock so that there's some assurance that there's no runoff towards the to Gloucester Pool?
No, so again, if you look at the LiDAR information from the district, which is very, very accurate in terms of elevations on the land, this is approximately the highest point on that peninsula. So unfortunately, yes, there might be surface runoff from these lands. And certainly during construction, one of the conditions is that I'm reminding the owner that the EIS registered on title, which requires construction techniques, including either straw bales or siltation fencing to stop runoff, that is in place during construction. But ultimately, again, the flows across the land that might result from the septic location are generally intercepted by the driveway, which becomes Island Drive, and then would flow to the north and west until they would then potentially go into the north and east. And there are two other locations where the shape of the land may be that water flows could, on the surface of the land, travel towards the water. However, again, given the separation of these lands by the water that flows through the Trent Severn waterway from the PSW on the opposite side of that channel on the island, there was no need for a scoped EIS. In terms of the conditions as well, they allow building staff to require survey work as necessary as the proposed septic would move from this planning approval through to their permission.
I appreciate the comments. Thank you, Jeff. not sure that I'm totally reassured that we won't have an issue down the road. Just wondering if maybe if it's okay through the chair, if our CBO could clarify things.
Well, I have a couple of questions that to the CBO as well, so maybe we'll.
I'll leave it with you, Chair.
All right, and just the whole question here that I have is around the timing, the chain of events. So the EIS, Mr. Clarke, takes place as part of the application, and so is that done before there is a site visit from the planning department?
No, so there was a scoped EIS that was peer reviewed prior to the last minor variance application that was before the committee last year regarding the proposed detached garage and second story sleeping cabin.
And does that EIS identify the location, the preferred location of that septic system?
No, and again, that EIS though is registered on title now as part of a minor variance agreement and therefore is applicable law. And one option would have been for me to require an update for that.
I'm more interested in how we got to where this septic system is going to be. So the EIS did not specifically say where it was. So was it the property owner that said, I want to put it there?
No, in fact, the property owner did
Okay, then if
identify.
they didn't do that, did this building department go on site and say that's where the septic tank has to go?
Through your chair to yourself. So just so you know, I think if I kind of start at the beginning and work my way, we'll kind of get all through this. So at the beginning, we don't design these things. They're designed by a qualified professional. We then in turn, in these cases, meet them on site to see if it's going to meet the potential of the building code. So that an inspection was done by one of our inspectors who met the installer on site. They had this discussion. It was determined that that is the best place for that system to go on the property, as well as already making the situation better from where the existing septic is, which is awfully close to the water. So then we'll go over to Councillor Jarvis's question, which kind of all ties in. So when a septic system is designed, we don't want it to be in a bowl because then it'll eventually fail. It'll just fill up. It always needs an outlet. And the whole point of the design of a septic through the Ontario Building Code is that when it gets to that point where it goes through all the different layers it has to, it's treated enough to then go either into the lake or groundwater or whatnot. So that's the whole design requirement. So in this case, especially when it's something like rock, there's a portion of it that's called a loading area. And when we call the rock or the soil, it has a T time. The higher that time, the bigger that loading area required to be. In a lot of cases, if it's rock, it has to be imported. So what that does on top of it is it makes this area of the effluent, after it goes through the filter bed or whatever it is, it will get that extra treatment through that extra area. And that's the whole purpose of the loading area. So by the time it makes its way to where it needs to go, if it even makes that way, because if there are bushes or trees or something, not in the bed, obviously, but in that loading and mantle area, those plants and vegetation will obviously suck up some of that effluent as it makes its way.
Okay, just getting back to the timing, Ms. Nicholson, did I understand from what you just said that the design and location of that septic system is done by a professional organization paid for by the applicant prior to the application proceeding through planning?
Well, correct. Well, they have had a qualified designer on site who then we in turn met with because we had questions about where its proposed location, because before we go out and we comment on these, we like to make sure that it can go where they want it to go, because there's really no sense in going down this road and then us getting there telling them, sorry about your luck, no, you can't have it.
That's perfect. That's what I was hoping to hear, because when we from the Committee of Adjustment go to do a site visit looking at all the things that we're definitely not qualified. And I'm just wondering that if that process had made it to the Committee of Adjustment without a qualified person, either the building department or an independent company, having looked at the chosen site and made a determination that it was suitable for a septic system. If that's happened, we're not all that interested in the septic, other than the fact that the procedure has allowed that to be verified before it comes to us. So good with that. Are there any other questions or comments? See, Oh,
Turn your head, you see.
yeah. Member Jarvis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Predko. Just a quick question to our CBO. The building code says, is it a 20-meter minimum setback from the water and the side lot line?
No, through the chair to Mr. Matthews, no, technically the minimum is a 15-meter setback to water. So that increases depending on the type of system that's put in. Generally filter beds, you have to double the height of how far that is above natural grade and add it on to any required setback, because obviously there's more setbacks that are required. It's not just the water, it's property lines, structures and things like that. So we have to make sure it meets all the requirements. So most cases in Georgian Bay, you're about 18 meters when it's out of the ground, because there's not too many places in Georgian Bay you can fully dig in a sewage system in this township. So that's why it tends to get bigger. And the weird thing about the code is we also do it on Georgian Bay to a set regulation height, so the 177.4, where the code itself just says to water. So we're doubly safe here in Georgian Bay.
I had 20 in my mind for some reason, so thank you for that clarity.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or comments? If not, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Rivet, seconded by Member Predko. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment Township of Georgian Bay approves minor variance application A26-06 under section 45(1) of the Planning Act to verify zoning bylaw 2014-75 as amended, decreasing the minimum shoreline setback for leaching bed septic system from 30 meters to 19 meters in table 4.1 of section 4.26 septic system that shall be renumbered when the Ontario Land Tribunal decides case number OLT 25-597 as section 4.27 septic system, thereby allowing a new septic system on subject lands municipally known as 108 Island Drive. And be it resolved that the decision is subject to the following conditions. One, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that's subject to this decision. And two, that the proposed septic tank be substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out in the sketch submitted to and approved by the committee. And three, that the proposed septic system be substantially and proportionately in conformity with the requirements of a minor variance agreement registered on title as instrument MT 312608, including but not limited to tree removal during specific time periods and the erection of siltation fencing or straw bales during construction. And four, upon request by building staff during construction, an Ontario land surveyor shall pin the septic system and verify in writing that the proposed septic is no closer than 19 meters from the high water mark on Gloucester Pool and no closer than 15 meters from the rear lot line. And five, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of decision from the township, only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our next application is minor variance application A26-13 for 58 Sanctuary Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. The subject property has an area of 4,680 square meters and a frontage of 69.3 meters on 6 Mile Lake. The subject lands are developed with a detached dwelling, sleeping cabin, detached garage, a dryland boathouse, and a dock. The purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to facilitate the reconstruction and expansion of a detached dwelling, which will result in a lot coverage of 9.3% or 371.3 square meters, whereas the maximum permitted lot coverage is 8% or 321.44 square meters, and will have a maximum gross floor area of 5.92% or 277.4 square meters of the lot area, whereas a maximum gross floor area of 5% or 234 square meters of the lot area is permitted. The subject lands are designated waterfront area in the District of Muskoka official plan. The plan supports low-density residential and recreational development, provided it protects natural features, shoreline integrity, and remains compatible with existing development patterns. The proposed development is located outside of valuable conifer thermal cover for deer habitat and outside of hazardous forest types, while appearing consistent with surrounding residential development, which has varying building footprints, gross floor areas, and waterfront setbacks. The lands are further designated waterfront within the 6 Mile Lake Inland Waterfront Community, where policies prioritize protecting natural heritage, maintaining visual character, and allowing limited low-density residential development. The character of the community emphasizes low-density residential development and minimizing the visual impact of development from the water, supported by the retention of existing vegetation on the site. Policies recognize that the size and siting of dwellings influence environmental and visual impact and encourage appropriate scale, setbacks, and shoreline vegetation to maintain the natural form of the area. The proposed dwelling represents an improvement in siting and overall conformity with the intent of these policies compared to the existing dwelling. The dwelling complies with the minimum 20-meter front yard setback, with the majority of the building located more than 26 meters from the shoreline. It also meets the minimum 5-meter side yard setback, whereas the existing dwelling is located approximately 0.35 meters from the side lot line. In terms of built form, the dwelling is 1.5 stories with a maximum height of 6.84 meters, well below the permitted 8 meters and 2-story limit. The subject lands are zoned 6 Mile Lake residential within the township zoning bylaw. The proposed dwelling has increased setbacks, is under the maximum permitted building height, and complies with the maximum permitted width. The proposed dwelling results in a total lot coverage of 9.3%. The intent of regulating lot coverage is to maintain a low density of built form, thereby minimizing environmental and visual impacts on the lake and preserving its natural heritage and aesthetic integrity. The proposed lot coverage represents an increase of 56.96 square meters from the existing condition. Of this increase, more than half, 31.2 square meters, is attributable to the addition of a rear porch, which is not visible from the lake. The redevelopment will remove the prominent side deck and further screen the partially visible rear yard garage, thereby reducing visibility from the lake and maintaining, while in some respects enhancing, the development's visual integration within the natural shoreline context, despite a minor increase in lot coverage. The proposed gross floor area is 277.4 square meters, whereas 234 square meters is permitted based on 5% of the lot area within 60 meters of the shoreline. Maximum gross floor area provisions, similar to lot cover controls on 6 Mile Lake, are intended to regulate building massing and prevent excessively large dwellings, and in this case, the proposed home, including a 31.2 square meter rear porch not visible from the water and a footprint under 167 square meters with a partial second story, is not considered overly large in this context. The official plan supports increased dwelling size, where measures such as greater shoreline setbacks and vegetation preservation are provided. And here, the dwelling is set back mostly over 26 meters from the lake and will include additional native shoreline planting, reducing visual impact and enhancing the natural state shoreline area. Shown here are photos taken from the rear yard of the existing site conditions. Here are photos taken at the shoreline in front of the existing dwelling. Note that this proposal replaces the existing dwelling, which was constructed in 1961, with a new dwelling that reflects improved siting and design. Here are additional photos of buildings on the property and the existing vegetation. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis based on applicable tests under the Planning Act and are recommending approval subject to conditions, including that the owner restores a minimum of 43 square meters of land within 15 meters of the front lot line to a natural state by planting native trees and/or plants, and that the applicant apply for and obtain site plan approval. The Committee of Adjustment can approve any one of the variances or deny with reasons. The committee can defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, has there been correspondence in this application?
One letter was received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating building permits are required and sewage system capacity will be reviewed at that time. If expansion or replacement is needed, the current location will not meet the zoning bylaw.
Thank you. Is the applicant present and do they wish to address the committee on this matter? We have someone online. Please identify yourself and let us know if you have anything to add to the planner's comments.
I'm through the chair. This is Jeremy Cottrell, IBW Surveyors. I'm the agent on this file. I just wanted to comment that it is my client's intent, Neil, to actually remove the existing septic system at the building permit phase and replace it with a small filter bed system, which will comply with the zoning bylaw and the Ontario Building Code, subject to permit approval.
Okay, thank you for that. I didn't quite get the name of your company. Could you repeat that again a little slower, please?
Yes, it's IBW Surveyors.
You got it. Okay, thank you. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And we have member Predko, you had a question?
Yep, I do. And just to do with lot coverage and the decks. I know right now there's that very large open deck, and that's contributing to lot coverage currently. And I can't tell in the plans if that deck is being retained or if something similar is being retained. I know there's a small deck at the back of the property, but is the other open deck continuing, or I'm just wondering about the lot coverage increase and whether or not that deck affected it one way or the other. I think it's hard to see from the site plan.
Okay, do you still have a comment, Mr. Cottrell? I see your hands down now. So.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I guess through the chair. We did include the proposed deck as part of the building coverage based on the definition of the coverage calculations. We just wanted to be sure. So we did include that in the coverage calculations. The existing 3-story frame dwelling will be demolished, including the decks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, seeing none, I will read the resolution. It is moved by member Schmidt, seconded by member Hazelton. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby approves the following variance requested under minor variance application A26-13. Number 1, lot coverage of 9.3% or 371.3 square meters, whereas the maximum permitted lot coverage is 8%, which is 321 meters, based on the lot area within 60 meters of the regulated water zone on 6 Mile Lake, and a maximum gross floor area of 5.92% or 277.4 square meters of the lot area, whereas a gross floor area of 5%, which is 234.01 square meters of the lot area, is permitted. And subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner restores a minimum of 43 square meters of land within 15 meters of the front lot line to a natural state by planting native trees and or plants no later than August 1, 2028, for which the locations and species of the native vegetation are to be identified on the landscape plan provided to the township for approval. And I'm assuming that can be provided by the owner, doesn't require a licensed person to do that. Okay. And 2, that the applicant apply for and obtain site plan approval from the Township of Georgian Bay, including, if required, the excavation and registration of a site plan agreement against the title of the lands. And 3, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that's subject to this decision. And 4, that the proposed development is substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And finally, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of decision from the township, only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our next application is A 26-17 for 2 Island 2170 in Georgian Bay. To the planner, please.
Through the chair. The island is within the Cognizant coastal waterfront community and is located within Freddy's Channel, comprising of 0.90 hectares or 2.23 acres. The property is currently developed with a 2-bedroom seasonal dwelling in the southeast portion of the island. The dwelling was constructed in 1936 and has a legal non-complying front yard setback of 2.5 meters to the high water mark. There's a deck attached to the dwelling that wraps around the eastern facade. An official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment were adopted in 2021 for the construction of a new dwelling in the central portion of the island. Due to the rising construction costs in recent years, the property owners determined that in addition to the existing dwelling was a more practical and desirable alternative. In 2024, a second zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw number 2024-107, was approved for a revised development concept, which included an addition to the rear of the dwelling and an extension of the existing deck. The owners have further refined the design to reduce the size and location of the addition and include a covered seating area over the existing deck. The minor variance application seeks to permit a 43 square meter or 460 square foot covered deck. The covered deck will be constructed over the existing deck and will include an outdoor fireplace incorporated into a masonry structure along the northwest side of the deck. The structure would consist of a wood-burning fireplace, wood storage, chimney, and has been designed to comply with all applicable fire and building code requirements. A minor variance is required, requesting an increase in the maximum width of the dwelling from 28%, which was previously approved in bylaw 2024-107, to 45.6%. The existing footprint of the dwelling is not being enlarged or expanded. The roof deck area is to be constructed on the existing deck, and the proposed development will not encroach any further into the front yard setback and will remain at the same setback. Planning staff have conducted an analysis of applicable planning legislation and are recommending approval of the application. The committee can either approve, deny the application with reasons, or defer the application to a later date for additional information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, has there been correspondence in this application?
One letter was received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating that a building permit is required and OLS confirmation of setbacks prior to footing inspection. And one letter of support was received from the Cognizant Cottagers Association.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or their agent present? And if so, please identify yourself for the committee.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Thanks for the opportunity to present to you. My name is Lauren Arsenault. I'm a planner with Morgan Planning and Development, and we've been retained by the owners of 2 Island 2170 in the Cognizant coastal community to represent them in support of a minor variance application for an addition to the existing dwelling on the subject lands. Thank you to staff for summary of the application. I do have a presentation prepared. I'd just like to expand on that presentation and share my screen. Okay. So as staff noted, the subject property is located within the Cognizant coastal community within Freddy's Channel on Georgian Bay, and the island property is approximately 2.2 acres in area. The property is currently developed with a 2-bedroom seasonal dwelling in the southeast portion of the island. That dwelling was constructed in 1936 and has legal non-complying front yard setback of 2.5 meters to the high water mark. There's a deck attached to the dwelling that wraps around to the southern portion of the property, and the property is serviced by private well and septic system. The shoreline is characterized by a mix of open rock outcrops and areas of vegetation. So here are a few images of the property. As you can see, the existing dwelling is located quite close to the shoreline and is considered legal non-complying shoreline dwelling. So a bit of a background, the subject property was previously subject to an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment approved in 2021, which permitted the construction of a new dwelling in the central portion of the island. However, due to rising construction costs in recent years, the property owners determined that an addition to the existing dwelling was more practical and desirable alternative. In 2024, a second zoning bylaw amendment was approved for a revised development concept, which included an addition to the rear of the dwelling and an extension of the existing deck. Since that time, the owners have even further refine the design to reduce the size and location of the addition and include a covered seating area over the existing deck. So as previously mentioned, the proposed development includes a 98 square foot addition to the interior of the existing dwelling, which will facilitate a dining area. As well as covering the existing deck. It's important to note that neither the addition nor the covered deck will encroach any further into the existing front yard setback. So here's a look at the excerpt from the site plan. The addition is shown in green. The covered portion of the deck is shown in purple. Again, a look at the floor plan. The covered deck shown in blue here. This covered deck will feature an outdoor fireplace. That structure is shown in red on this plan. Here is an elevation drawing facing east. This is what will be visible from the shoreline, as well as another elevation facing south also will be visible from the shoreline. However, there's a greater setback from this angle. The variance is required to permit an increase in allowable percentage of width, expansion for legal non-complying shoreline dwellings. As you can see, the width calculation would include the covered deck, and being an island property, the width would be measured on a diagonal. Here's a quick look at the zoning matrix outlining the specific provisions this application seeks relief from and how the proposed structures otherwise comply. The previous zoning bylaw amendment addressed the reduced front yard and waterfront setbacks for the dwelling, as well as the attached deck, shed, and septic. So all of those were legalized through the previous zoning bylaw amendment. And the previous zoning bylaw amendment also allowed for an increase of 80% in GFA of the non-complying dwelling. What is being proposed through this development concept is smaller in size and represents only 63.4% increase. The previous zoning bylaw amendment also allowed for a 28% increase to width. However, what's being proposed today is above and beyond that because it includes the covered deck, and that is a 45.6% increase, and yeah, to accommodate the covered deck. Subject property is designated waterfront area in the district's OP and waterfront in the township's official plan. And in formulating rationale for the minor variance application, Morgan Planning and Development considered the 4 tests, which are outlined in our accompanying planning justification report. Morgan Planning and Development is of the opinion that the proposed development is minor in nature, is desirable for the appropriate development of the subject property, and that the general intent and purpose of the township zoning bylaw and official plan is maintained. Thank you for your attention, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have regarding the proposed variance. We would respectfully request that committee approve the application with conditions as outlined in staff's report.
Thank you, Ms. Arsenal. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion, bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. Member Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Jarvis, for giving me space. I'm quite familiar with this property. We did have a site visit on it. Whilst the numbers look pretty staggering to go a 45% increase, you're really just putting a roof over an existing deck, right? So let's keep that in mind. And a pretty small 100 square foot addition or something like that, which is just going to square the building up. So the view from the canoe won't change at all. And I would support it. So just sort of way of background. The numbers seem scary at first, but it's not, in my opinion.
Thank you. Member Schmidt.
Coming up for number 3. Through you, Chair. I just note today in applications, we've had 2 letters of support from Cognizant, which is nice to see. I've only ever seen non-objection, which I was clarified once before, but seeing support from Cognizant certainly helps me make my decision. Thank you.
Member Jarvis.
Thank you, through Chair. The planning, part of the issue here is the way you measure width. From my perspective, you're measuring width corner to corner as opposed to from, the view from the canoe type of aspect. Just out of curiosity, the width, I believe, I look at the page with survey on it, if you were looking at it directly from the water, is just close to 16 meters in width. What is the width from corner to corner, which is obviously where the big difference is? I don't see a number along with that width denotation in red on the survey.
Through the chair, it's 20.1 meters.
So
The
yeah,
total
so
width.
you're looking at more than a 5 meter differential between the 2 measurements, which I think is interesting. I'm agreeing with Councillor Matthews. The view from the canoe basically doesn't change. I was really happy to hear there's no further front yard encroachment, because really there is no room for any front yard encroachment. You'd be over the water. So yeah, I'm happy with this. I just think it's interesting and maybe worth reviewing when we go through our OP on width measurements and how they're done. Anyway, but thank you. Just observations.
Okay, thank you very much. No further questions. I have a question for our CBO, just in regard to this type of application. If an application comes to planning and meets the planning requirements subject to the conditions of the adjustments from the committee adjustment, when a building a representative or an inspector goes on site, does the entire property then become subject to any requirements from the building department, or is it just the addition that is subject to your approval?
To you, Chair, we're not quite sure I completely understand, but when we go there, we're being requested there for a certain type of inspection, and that's technically what we're there to do. So we're there under a building code hat. So I'm not sure what else you expect us to see while we're on site.
An example, if you were putting an addition on one side, let's say you're putting in a covered porch, so the foundation, the decking, everything for that was subject to your inspection. Yet on the other side of the house, there was a even safety hazard. The deck was falling off, or there was some deficiency in the roof, whatever. Does that fall under, does the building inspector take that into consideration?
If there was an unsafe situation, then yes, that's something we put an order on, but we're not there inspecting an existing building as it is an existing building.
Okay.
The only way we'd put something on there is if they add something without a permit or it was unsafe.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. If there are no further questions or comments, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Jarvis and seconded by Member Matthews. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A26-17 to zoning bylaw 2014-75 for 2 Ireland 2170 to facilitate the construction of an addition to the existing dwelling and the covered deck on the southerly side of the dwelling as described below, where the maximum increase permitted is 28% and the proposed is 45.6%. Subject to the following. One, that the owner provide property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. Two, that the proposed addition to the existing dwelling and covered deck are substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And three, that the agent or owner prepares an erosion and sediment control plan satisfactory to the township and executes the plan throughout the duration of the construction of the proposed development, subject to minor variance application A26-17. And four, that the owner enter a minor variance agreement relating specifically to the addition and covered deck and to include erosion and sediment control plan. And five, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the decision from the township, only after the committee decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved.
Thank you, committee.
Our next application is minor variance A26-19 for 217 Kilty Bay Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The subject property has an area of 1.49 acres with a frontage of 63.13 meters onto Stewart Lake, with road access via Kilty Bay Road. The property is currently developed with a detached dwelling, detached garage, dryland boathouse, and a dock structure with areas of dense mature vegetation existing within all yards. The purpose and effect of this application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to facilitate the construction of a sauna accessory building within the front yard. The purpose and intent of prohibiting saunas within the front yard of shoreline residential zones is to ensure an appropriate balance between the natural environment and built form. These provisions are intended to minimize visual and physical impacts on the shoreline, preserve natural shoreline character, and prevent the overdevelopment of waterfront areas. Section 4.1.12.5 of the zoning bylaw explicitly states a sauna shall not be permitted in the front yard of a property in the shoreline residential zone, but may be considered through a minor variance in accordance with the policies of the official plan. The subject property is designated waterfront within the township's official plan. The waterfront designation recognizes residential development, which shall be limited to single detached dwelling unit, accessory uses, and structures including shore-related uses. Development must respect the aesthetic quality of waterfront and remain compatible with existing land uses. The proposed sauna is modest in scale and has been carefully sited within an open area free of mature vegetation, avoiding tree removal and minimalizing site disturbance. Its placement and design ensure it will not detract from the scenic character of the waterfront or create adverse visual impacts. As such, the development maintains compatibility with the surrounding area and conforms to the intent of the waterfront designation. The view from the water in terms of activity area is not expected to be visually expanded given the existing natural screening, as a large portion of the front yard is maintained in its natural state. The proposed sauna is to be constructed in an area already clear of vegetation with proximity to the detached dwelling at a front yard setback of 22.2 meters. The development location will preserve native vegetation in the interior sides and front yard of the subject property. The committee can either approve or deny the variance being requested. The committee may also defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis of the proposed variance and are recommending approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, has there been any correspondence in this application?
One letter was received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating she has no concerns with this application.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? And if so, do they wish to address the committee with any additional information than what's been supplied by the planner?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk, committee members. I'm the owner of the property. No, I don't think I have anything further to add unless you have some questions for me.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one member of the public here as well.
Yeah, my lovely wife.
Kid, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Is there any other member of the public that wishes to address the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion, bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And we'll begin with Member Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I do believe this is extremely minor variance from the zoning bylaw. It's in the front yard, but it's close to the cottage and it's off screen from the lake. So I think it meets, as Andrew said, I think it meets all the requirements for the purpose of the minor variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further, do you have your microphone on? Do you have a question?
Question. Yes, thank
Member
you.
Rivet, please proceed.
Thank you. What is the reason a sauna is not permitted in that setback?
Are you directing that to
the planner? Yeah.
Okay,
I'll answer to the best of my ability through the chair if Derek wants to add anything afterwards. It's mainly to maintain the balance between natural and built form. So we limit the amount of buildings or structures that are permitted within the front yard. They're usually limited to open decks, docks, dryland boathouse, in-water boathouse and boatport. But all other accessory buildings, this would include something like a detached garage, is not preferred in the front yard of a waterfront property.
So in the case of this, I mean, they continually come forward because it's not permitted, but it's minor to me. If it's not permitted, it should be a zoning bylaw as opposed to a variance. Is there something coming forward in the new official plan that is going to make this just a right, since no one's, I mean, staff never seems that it's anything other than minor. So why do we have it in the first place is my bigger question, when other municipalities are asking just to accept it as a matter of course. So
we have a comment from Director Woodland. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to the committee. So Andrew's comment by what he meant is that provision was the will of council of the day in passing the zoning bylaw. So that would have been a requirement that council would have been seeking. Secondly, with respect to the ability of minor variances to deal with uses in a location where they may not be permitted, that is entirely within the scope of a minor variance, and it certainly has to meet the tests of a minor variance, but it need not be a zoning bylaw amendment if it meets the tests of minor variance. So certainly, and then the third part I'll try to answer. One of the things that staff would intend to do through the future official plan and zoning bylaw amendment review, one of the useful exercises is to look at common and repetitive minor variances in a municipality that are applied for and approved. And that's usually an indicator that there's a provision of the zoning bylaw that is not meeting the needs of the municipality, and it probably should be re-examined.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any further questions? Member Smith, did you have a question?
To your chair, Hill. Yeah, this is something I've mentioned a number of times in the room here. It only makes sense that a sauna is the close proximity to the water. That's the whole purpose of this. So I really hope this is something that is reviewed and will streamline some of these processes. You need appropriate screening and, view from the canoe. I get all that stuff, but the front yard is where it needs to be toward the water. But anyways, thank you. And the instructions on how to build a sauna. That's a beautiful, beautiful unit you're building there.
Well, thank you.
If it's approved. Yes.
Trying to do things the right way. And I think as a member of the community, I think everybody should be doing the same. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Buckler. Are there any other further questions or comments? If not, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Rivet and seconded by Member Schmidt. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A26-19 to zoning bylaw 2014-75 as amended for 217 Kilty Bay Road to facilitate the construction of a sauna as described below. One, within the front yard at a setback of 22.2 meters to the shoreline, whereas section 4.1.12.5 prohibits saunas within the front yard. The above noted approvals are subject to the following conditions. One, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to the decision, and that the proposed sauna be substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out in the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of decision from the township, only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. I'd like to thank everybody for their participation in today's public meeting. I have one further motion, resolution proposed by Member Hazelton, seconded by Member Matthews. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment does now adjourn at 12 noon until July 17, 2026 at 10 a.m. or at the call of the chair. All those in favor, please signify. Thank you. The motion is carried and the meeting is adjourned.